Is this the hottest wing you have? I used to own a wing joint. Nothing fancy, but a good selection of wing flavors and beer. Inevitably we would have people come in and order the suicide wings. I like super spicy foods, so these were pretty dang hot. Of those people, about 5 to 10% would always start the joke/sarcastic conversation, "These aren't that hot. Can't you do better? Yuck, yuck, yuck." One of my best regulars, a dentist who fancied himself a gardener, decided to help us out and planted a ghost pepper bush, at the time the hottest pepper in the world, and he could bring us the bounty of his harvest. And he would intentionally underwater the bush so the peppers would be as hot as they could be. When he would bring us the peppers, I would grind them, seeds and all, into a nice paste which I would combine with our suicide sauce and keep to the side for when our spicy wing connoisseurs would show up and complain about the suicide sauce not being hot enough. I would only serve them one death head wing, seemed a fitting name. I would make them wear gloves to eat it to prevent capsaicin burns on their skin. I would specifically tell them about the heat they were about to get into, trying to dissuade them from eating this culinary monstrosity. By the time we got through all this, every single person always now viewed this as an insult to their manhood. Never had a woman complain about heat, but would sometimes actually ask if there was another level they could try, and could not be stopped from eating this wing. So they did. The fun thing about capsaicin oil is it can often take a few seconds to kick, usually just enough time for the person to scarf down the wing and start to smugly tell us how it wasn't that hot. And then the heat would begin. And once it started it was relentless. The wing was free, but the cup of milk after was $20. I never had a single person ask for a second one.
Now to the comments. I used to be the one who made the hot wings. I had some guy order them, so I went to work. I mixed up my sauce, coated the wings, ran them through the pizza oven to set the sauce, then coated them again. Then I sprinkled habanero flakes on top of them and sent them out. About 15 minutes later I hear a voice say, "Who made my wings?" I look over and see this big guy, think Bobby Lashley, standing at the door of the kitchen. I'm thinking, okay, I'm dead. As I say I did, he looks at me and said, "I just wanted to shake the hand of the guy that kicked my ass." He gave me a 20 and said they were the best wings he ever had.
That's the best any of these stories have ended.
When you need to tap out, don't let your pride get in the way. That's something I learned firsthand with one place's Wings of Death. Probably Reaper. Not going down that road again.
Duck pride. Pride only hurts, it never helps. You fight through that shit.
Pride of an earned accomplishment is great. Pride of ego is gonna kick your ass. Not exactly a wing story, but something that might fit in here. When I was in college, a friend of mine got a job working at a USDA farm where, among other things, they were growing some pretty hot peppers. One morning he was tasked to pick some of the peppers. The person he worked for warned him, "Once you start picking them, don't rub your nose or face until you've washed your hands." He was careful not to rub his nose or face while he was picking the peppers. At lunchtime, a truck came out to take him into the nearby office so he could eat lunch. Because he'd been out in the hot sun, picking peppers, he first went to the men's room to relieve himself of some of the water he'd been drinking all morning. No one told him that he should also wash his hands thoroughly before he urinated. He ended up having to explain to HR why the office receptionist heard him shrieking, and when she went into the men's room in a panic thinking he'd hurt himself, his pants were down and he had Mr. Happy in the sink frantically trying to wash it off.
I was dating a guy who did this. I had to run to the corner store for milk. Funny thing is, I was chopping peppers for a recipe and he says, "Let me show you how to chop a pepper." That he did.
Yeah, cutting lots of peppers is no joke. I made the same mistake going gloveless to chop peppers for hot sauce. I'm sticking with the food processor next time. Felt like third-degree sunburn on my hands. I have a similar story. My family owned a restaurant and our wings were really big deal. We made wing sauce differently than every other place. We had mild and hot and that was it. The hot would probably be a medium at most places, so we would crush up some red pepper flakes and coat the wing in them and then put on the sauce for those who wanted it extra spicy. Well, in walks regular customer who always complains that the wings aren't spicy enough, to the point he would tease my dad for the baby spice wings. Well, I had recently gotten a bottle of Mad Dog Pure Capsaicin to use for our chili just to add a little heat and not affect the flavor. This stuff only took a couple of drops to kick up the heat on a 5-gallon batch of chili. So the customer asks, "Are you going to make my wings spicy this time?" So my dad went all out with the crushed pepper sauce and then put 2 drops of this Mad Dog on each wing. I'm pretty sure the wings took on a bluish color until everything mixed together and sent them out. Now it's important to note that this was a to-go order. About 20 minutes later I get a call and it sounds like someone in serious pain asking for my dad. I put him on the phone and it turns it was the customer. The wings were so spicy he wanted to know what was in there and if he should call poison control or go to the hospital. We told him if he drinks some milk and has some ice cream it should dissipate some, but he will be feeling it for a bit. One good thing to come of this, he never asked for extra spicy wings again.
He would also have felt it the next morning.
The ice cream wasn't for his mouth, lol. Freshman year of college I had a chocolate habanero plant growing in my room. They were very spicy, and I say that as someone who grew up eating spicy food. I didn't go through them that quickly, so if my roommates wanted one, they were free to take some. One day, I'm out of my room when a roommate has a friend over. He sees the plant and asks about it. My roommate tells him about how even I find them spicy, and his friend responds with, "Your roommate is a witch, I bet they're not that hot." He plucks one and takes a bite, and pretty soon he's tearing up and his nose is running. It was very satisfying to hear the story later on.
LOL, maybe dudes should wait to insult people until after they try the same thing they're insulting them for. That's great though. Bet he felt like a witch after.
Honestly, it's a ducking pain to be around people like that. Like, I lose respect for someone who talks down about people, especially when they're not even in the room to defend themselves. I ultimately avoid people who are insufferable like that. I literally did the same thing. We randomly got wings shipped instead of normal chicken and had to keep it at the restaurant I managed. So we briefly made a special and of course everyone was like, "Finally wings," which they took forever to prep in our small place. I had one guy who would never hush about wanting wings or super spicy chicken fingers, kids meal item that doesn't exist, and demanded the hottest wings we could make. I asked if he was sure he wanted that hot because the head chef was from Mexico. I can't remember the region, but it's where hot food is standard, and even smelling it made me cry. Of course, he says yes. So those wings got drowned in 7 spices and sauces plus the chef's own personal spice sauce that made every server look like it was a funeral. I gave him the extra ranch and milk for free and he never bothered us again.
Did he die?
Well, yeah. Eventually. Might take several more years though.